Hey guys, what's going on? Bobby here, and welcome to the first episode of the ATA Network podcast. This is something that I've wanted to do, something that is highly requested of me to do, and I've got a lot of friends that want to come on here and chat and tell their story, and this is the platform for that. A lot of people missed the Bobby Vlogs series, and they missed talking to me and hearing about what's going on in my life. Well, this is the new platform for that. This is going to be pretty much the new forum of the channel. Not forum of the channel, but the forum for the channel, I guess, is a better way to put that. This first episode has, this is just kind of like a brief. This is like a briefing scenario. So everybody sit down. Look at your packets in front of your seats. We're going to kind of discuss everything before takeoff, and hopefully you'll have a nice flight. So for those that don't know, I used to do a show called the ATA Podcast. It's on my channel. There was about 7 to 8 episodes, and what it was either me and my friends sitting around a table talking about random topics that really had no direct line of, meaning. There was no theme for a show. It was kind of going all over the place. Or the modern, what I call modern, but this is still a couple of years ago, those episodes were like Google Hangouts, me talking to people via the internet, people that, I didn't have direct close connection with, people from across the country. We even had my good buddy Dominic from Canada. He came on for one of the episodes. So those were the two main kinds of, I was trying to say kind and types. We're going to get a lot of that. This is pretty raw, right? I'm not going to go through the efforts of trying to make this polished. It's not going to be super clean. We're just going to kind of come on here, and when you subscribe, when you come on for an episode of the ATA Podcast, it's like I'm sitting right there with you. You're working out. You're in the car, driving to work, driving to school. You want something to entertain you, to get you through quicker with less brain energy. You want to put that brain energy to something else. You want to listen. You want to do something. And that is what this is. I'm going to come on here. I'm going to sit next to you on your car ride. I'm going to be working out right next to you. And we're going to just talk about whatever's going on. You know me. You know what I am about. You like the brand ATA Network. So that's why you're on here. You might be into racing. You might be into go-kart racing. That's kind of been the modern theme of the channel, is this kart racing endeavor that I've taken a part of over the past couple of years. And so you want more information on that. You want to talk about kart racing? We're going to have kart racers on this show. We're going to pretty much talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about, anything that I've got a connection to is what the ATA Podcast is. The ATA Network Podcast is. The original name was ATA Podcast. The official title for this podcast is the ATA Network Podcast. First off, got to thank one of my business partners for helping me build this podcast platform and giving me a space to work out of. John Knowles with the What's That Like podcast. Probably have heard it if you've been on the channel, if you've followed who I am. They're a sponsor of the Bobby Krug racing team. And I used to work with the What's That Like podcast. I was the producer of the What's That Like podcast. Producer was my title. But I don't want, I'm gonna break the fourth wall a little bit. I'm gonna give you guys that insider's secret. By a producer's standards of a podcast producer, you might think a guy that's standing on the soundboard, or he's writing the episodes, or getting guests and all that kind of stuff. I don't, spoiler alert, I didn't actually produce the What's That Like podcast. John had me as just a character of the show. He's got a bunch of different characters that come on. It's a common theme of the show. I was a character of the show, but there was no other person. So if you've got John, right? John that runs the podcast, and you were going to go to the second man in charge of the What's That Like podcast, the second person that had the most involvement, that would have been me. So while I'm saying that I was just a character of the show, I did have some responsibility with John. Now, it was more so on the early goings of the podcast. I helped him launch the podcast. The first episode of the What's That Like podcast was me coming on talking about kart racing stuff. He literally, and this is the whole story you can hear about on that first episode. And then we did another episode called The State of the Pod. There'll be a link to this. We'll have a link dump. So we did that first podcast, and we did State of the Pod, which is basically us talking about how we got that started. You can listen to that. But I went to John when I told him that I wanted to do a podcast. And he was probably jealous because I don't really put a lot of involvement into WTL, but he knows that I do my own thing and that my own thing that I do now doesn't really fit that brand. What's That Like podcast, if you don't know, and they're a great sponsor of mine, so I do think they deserve the time of me talking about them. The theme of that podcast is, it originally was Central Illinois theme. So if you're in the Central Illinois area, there's definitely a lot of podcast episodes that he's produced that you would find enjoyable, a good listen to. And even if you're not, there's like, we talked to a ghost hunter. We talked to a person that circumnavigated the entire country on a bicycle. I mean, there's a bunch of different cool stories of things that you might be scrolling through Facebook and you might hear this crazy story. Well, you can actually sit down and listen to their story for, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever length that episode is. It's a really good idea. It's a really great platform for it, but it's a lot bigger than Central Illinois now, or at least that's what I would say. A lot of the guests are Central Illinois, but it's definitely more of a Midwest podcast, which definitely fits in with the Ignite Challenge, which is going on to another topic, the kart racing stuff, where that's a Midwest thing. So we're talking, Indiana, Iowa, Missouri, a bunch of other different locations. So that fits in with that audience as well. So I definitely recommend, if you haven't checked out the What's That Like podcast, that's been one of the bigger inspirations for me to start this ATA Network podcast. The ATA Network podcast, though, topic-wise, like I said, it's going to follow things that I'm interested in. We've got kart racers lined up, and we will also be, and this is another thing that you can get involved in, we have a forum, a Google form. It's easy to fill out, couple questions. If you or somebody you know is interested in being a guest on this podcast, you can go to that form and fill it out. Along with guests, I'm trying to hire doesn't really, not the right word. We're not going to, you're not going to get benefits. I'm not going to give you health benefits or a 401k with this, job. This is volunteer only. This is for people that you might have your own online brand. You might want to try to get more exposure for yourself. But if there's people out there that have interest in being a co-host, it would be cool to have a co-host for a lot of my themed episodes of things that I kind of want to tackle on my own. In all, if everything goes well, this will be one of the only episodes where it's just me talking. Now, that's what I would envision in my mind. I think that it would be better if I had a second person to bounce things off of. So it would make everything flow better. It would save my voice. I could actually reach over and get a drink. So if you're interested in being a co-host, in that same form for guests is going to be a bit where if you're interested in being a co-host, you can put your name down, tell me why you think you should be a co-host of this ATA Network podcast. But the big thing for a co-host, you pretty much got to keep the conversation going with me. We got to talk about things. And those things being racing, video production based, things that just interest me, things that interest you maybe. If you've got some interesting things going on with your life that you think that you can contribute to the podcast for, a good full season, whatever a season is, 10, 20 episodes, bring it along. Apply. The worst thing that I can say is no, but I'd love to have you as a guest or something like that. Who knows? But along with that list of people that would apply to be on the show, I've got people that I want to bring on to this show. A lot of racing related people. There's a lot of the main focus that I've thought of right now. There's some video production people that I can think of as well that I'd like to bring on. So if you're interested in racing, interested in video production, interested in what I've got going on in my life, this is the podcast for that. And like I said, I don't know if I said this on this show already. I really should be taking notes. This is also kind of a replacement to the Bobby Vlogs series of videos. There's been a lot of people that followed me on the vlog journey. I started that in 2013, 2012, in that range. And, it was successful and I made a lot of episodes at some points and then it hit some lows. I would say 2016, the last season of high school that I was in, or last semester of high school, semester season. When you're racing, you think of everything in seasons. The last semester of high school, I did a lot of vlogs. And actually in 2016, I hit 100 vlogs overall in a year. And so there was a big dedicated viewer base to the vlogs. And I stopped doing vlogs for a couple reasons. And I guess I'll just jump right into that. I mean, that's something that I think is very important, something inside that a lot of people don't really know. Why did I stop vlogging? Why did I stop bringing a camera around with me and showing everything that I'm doing or talking about things or talking about personal things in my life? I would say the first and foremost is just school. I'm a senior studying mass communications with a business minor at SIUE. This is my final semester right now, so hopefully in a couple months I'm walking across a stage and I get my diploma and everything's great and I go get a real job and hopefully I get more off time to be able to produce more content. So that's one of the big things, one of the big reasons why I haven't been able to do a lot of vlogs. I've just been busy, and quite frankly, I don't want to say I've got a boring life, but I mean, it's pretty systematic. I mean, I know what's going to happen. Like my day-to-day agenda, Tuesdays and Thursdays are my 2 days that I'm at school. I've got 4 classes that I meet in person for, and then I've got another class that is an online class that I kind of do during the weekends. On Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I've been working at the Gateway Kartplex, working on go-karts, cleaning them up. Me and a friend of mine that I'm considering to have as a co-host, Danny Odell, a good friend of mine. He works at the Kartplex. He's usually the race director on race days. He's a dirt racer as well, so that would be another realm of the podcast. He was definitely going to be on at some point, whether as a co-host or a guest. He's got a really big knowledge in that dirt racing and NASCAR and stock car racing. And what was I going with this? Oh, the vlog. So that's the systematic, like that's just my day-to-day. The weekends are pretty open for me. That's all I've got going on right now in the off season of racing. To vlog that is, I don't think that there would be a lot of entertainment value in doing something like that. The vlog has continued through racing because there's been a lot of people that, I would say most people, I'd say all people actually, prefer this vlog style of race video that I've been producing compared to the iDrive format where it's broadcast style. I mean, that was a really cool style. I know people love that. But it's difficult to do in Ignite just because of all the different classes. It's kind of hard to cover what everybody's got going on. And also sponsors being on board, they don't really care if I'm promoting Avery Schwalm or Hunter Richardson. Like, What's That Like podcast, Dexco Home Renovations, why would they want me in my video promoting what Hunter Richardson is doing? Granted, he's doing great things, but they're not, their money isn't, they're getting advertised and they're getting promoted through my behalf. So what does Hunter Richardson have to do with that? So there's also the benefit of the vlog format where it's just so focused on getting inside my mind throughout a race day and seeing what I've got going on. It's really interesting. And apparently, according to another friend, business partner of mine, Greg Dingus, he says that people like the personality, people like Bobby Krug, which is another reason why I want to bring this podcast to you guys. If you guys like me, and I like all you guys, this is another way that we can connect and establish a relationship here through this content creation of the ATA Network podcast. Another reason why I killed the vlog seems very vicious, but that's what I did. Another reason why I killed the vlog is I don't know if it's through mass comm. I don't know if it's through the video production stuff that I've done for Margay, but I've spent a lot of time behind the camera. So I've actually found a little bit of a discomfort being in front of the camera that I've established. And when we produced the video at the beginning of the year, and by we, I mean Greg Dingus, just mentioned, and Mark Schwagen, another friend of mine, when we produced the video at the beginning of the year, the Join the Race Team video, the video there talks about my history in racing, how I got into it, and then basically asking for people's support to join the team, to join the Bobby Krug racing team, which if you haven't seen that video, I'll put that in the link dump as well. It's a really good video, well-produced video. We spent a good portion of the afternoon shooting that video. That was like a 3, 4, 5 minute long video. Took us, I don't even know, 4 or 5 hours to shoot, 6 hours. I don't remember. And it was mentally draining and just almost like, I don't even know. It was frustrating. It was frustrating for me. And I don't know how it didn't frustrate Mark and Greg any more than it frustrated me. Like it took us, for some of the little clips where I was talking, it took, I don't know, 15 takes. It was very draining and very discouraging. And it's rough. And I've had opportunities presented in front of me to be an on-camera talent that I haven't taken. And there's been a lot that I've tried out for that it hasn't worked out. And I'm trying my hardest to try to bring that pizzazz back in my life. I'm trying to get better at being in front of the camera. And it just hasn't happened. It's been really difficult. I tried out for this SIUE show, Global Village, that I was a part of. I tried to try it out to be a host, and it didn't work out. I couldn't remember my lines, over 3 or 4 takes. And then I finally was able to fight my way through it to get, a decent take through. And then it just was bad. It wasn't good. So then I didn't get that. Like I just said with that shoot at the beginning of the year, it was very discouraging. And there's been a couple other times where I'll be shooting a vlog, or I've got this idea for a vlog. And this has happened a lot over the past couple of years. Even in 2016, there's days where I try to shoot a vlog and I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting here at my desk right now. So I've got my camera right next to me. So it's a camcorder. It's a handy camcorder, or in recent, situations with the racing stuff, it's been a cell phone. I've been using my iPhone just because my camcorder quality, it's just potato compared to what the cell phones can shoot, which is a conversation for a different time, just on the advancements of technology, which I don't really want to be the tech guy. I don't want to be talking about that kind of stuff, because then I start sounding like an old guy, like, man, all these smartphones, they're pretty much making all of us photographers and videographers just obsolete. We don't even need to exist. When Susie over there's got her cell phone shooting photos for Maggie's senior photos. That's just the kind of thing that, like, I feel like I would be talking about. But I would go and I would take my phone or my camcorder and I would get the camera app or start shooting and try talking to the camera, and I fall flat on my face. Like, I'm sure that I'll get to a certain point in this podcast where I hit that plateau. And it's frustrating. It's very difficult as a content creator. And I'm sure there's other people out there, other podcast producers, other video vloggers out there that have experienced that same kind of thing. You get the camera out, you've got the idea in your mind, but it's just difficult for you to get that idea out of your mind through your mouth into the camera and try building up this story, which is why a lot of my better produced videos where I'm, talking in front of the camera or talking into a microphone is very scripted out. But then again, I don't really have that kind of time on my hands to script something out, which is why I feel like if done correctly, if done right, this podcast can be very successful. So that's another reason why I believe the opinionated stuff of the vlog, all the personal information that I disclosed in the vlog, while it's not necessarily professional in my opinion, it's very unprofessional. Especially go back to 2016, where I'm crying and bitching essentially about people in my life, my friend circle or whatever. And I feel like that was another reason why I just struggled so much, is because I made all my issues public. I'm just complaining on Facebook. We all know those people on Facebook that expose way too much of their own personal information, or we're in the political spectrum again, where we're getting in the next election where everyone's talking about this candidate and why you should vote for my favorite candidate. And I don't care. I would say the most people are like, why is that on Facebook? Or, I don't want to see this stuff. I don't care about this stuff. So that's essentially how I felt about the vlogs. It's like, I don't think that I need to be portraying my problems out there. But then again, people care enough about me, about the platform, about what I'm doing in my life, especially now with, I think about to the future when we get to class reunions, and through high school in 2016, that last semester, I'm doing all these vlogs focusing on video production. I've made it clear and cut that I'm going to SIUE to do video production. And then just out of nowhere, I get into rental kart racing literally the same week that I started competitively racing in iDrive, the rental kart series, the same week that I started at SIUE, which is crazy to see how much, my education and my racing have all been developing on the same platform. In the same 4-year period that it took me to get my degree, I've gone from racing rental karts to getting a chance to run a Formula 4 car at Indianapolis, which is something that we'll talk about on a future episode. And then being successful in the Ignite series. Sure, I haven't won a race, but sure, I've been really on the edge. I'm like, this is another Greg Dingus moment. Greg Dingus once told me, and he's got wisdom. If you've ever, I feel bad for anybody, and I don't mean this to try to fill Greg's plate with people that need help or want to discuss with him on things that need to be done to their kart or what they need to do to be better drivers. But if anyone's ever been fortunate enough to work with Greg Dingus, it's just a fantastic time. He's such a good guy, and he's got these sayings or these things that he'll tell you, and they'll stick with you, forever. He actually, I think this was in Miami or building up to Miami. He says that, my progress in racing, I've gotten to a certain point. I've learned a lot. I've definitely improved since my rookie year or since rental kart racing, but I'm like a butterfly in a cocoon, and like there's this little bit of effort that I'm lacking, that I need to bust out of this cocoon. Like, I'm right there. I'm like on the edge of becoming, I've transformed from the caterpillar. I'm in the cocoon. I'm about to bust into a butterfly, and I'm on that edge. Something in the effort, something in what I'm doing with maintenance on the cart. There's something out there that is on the edge of me becoming a butterfly. And he said this to me. So I believe in that, quite frankly. I mean, my best finish is P2. That's on the edge of winning. And I can confirm. I mean, iDrive and Ignite is two different series, two different ways that it operates. And in iDrive, I will be honest, and once again, I'm going to spoiler alert if I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but in iDrive, there is a way that you can have a amazing, distinct advantage over your competitors. And that advantage is called weight. In Ignite, we all put lead blocks on the cart. And this might be obvious information to people that are in karting, but I realize we have people that don't know. They just know I race and they don't know the ins and outs of it. So I will go into detail on some of these things. We have lead weight that we bolt to the cart, and everyone is at the same weight. So you in the cart plus your weight that you have on the cart for senior is 360 pounds. In iDrive, only the driver is weighed. So I was 145. I'm still probably 145. And that was the minimum weight for iDrive. So I didn't have to add any extra weight to the cart, or you can't add any weight to the cart. You can add weight to yourselves. My teammate, Brendan Lauer, when we competed in iDrive together, he would wear a weight vest because he was at, I think, 140, 130 in that range somewhere. And so he had to have a weight vest to get up to 145. So when me and him were dominating the iDrive series, the iDrive program, the reason that we were being so successful back in that day, there was only a light and heavy class. So there was a pretty big span if you were in the light class. So we were going up against guys like Austin Russell, Colin Predith, Matt Chubb, these guys that I'm not saying that they're fat because they're not fat, but they're just bigger than us. And any extra weight that you've got is just a distinct speed advantage. I don't know what that advantage is, but there's a clear, distinct advantage. And that's why I found success quicker in iDrive compared to Ignite because, on iDrive also you're in rental carts, so they vary depending on what cart you get into. There's obviously some carts that are faster than others, but it usually works its way out in the wash. Usually you've had the same amount of bad carts or hopefully a really less amount of bad carts than everybody else. And everyone's had their fair share of bad nights or really good nights. But I found success a lot quicker in iDrive. But I will say that once I won my first iDrive race, it got a lot easier to win races. And that's the same thing. I think you hear that drivers talk about that in NASCAR or IndyCar. Once they've won their first race and get that first win out of the way, it's a lot easier to do it. And I think of guys like Hunter Richardson, Evan Stammer, while they've had more experience on track than other drivers, and that's pretty much been the key to the success, especially Evan Stammer. I mean, he was one of the first Ignite juniors out there. He was basically running races by himself in the junior class, winning championships, and then by the time other people were getting into the series, he just had so much experience that he was just putting a donking on everybody. And then you've got Hunter Richardson, who, granted, I really don't know the history on Hunter, but I know that he's been racing in the Ignite series a lot longer than I would say most of everybody else in the series, that he was doing the same stuff. Spike Kolbecker, another great example. So I'm getting to that point where I am getting to the seniority of the program. And then plus with all the help and support that I've received, all the learning, all the teaching that I've been able to give from all the experienced guys from Margay and all these other drivers, you just start being the top guy. So that's where I'm getting close to breaking out of that cocoon of becoming a butterfly and being a dominant force in the series. So yeah, I went through all of that, and the thing that I was talking about before we were actually getting into the whole racing deal was when I go to my high school reunion, a lot has changed. A lot has happened to me over these past 4 years. And without the vlog being there, and granted, there's been a lot of video content, a lot of the vlogs from the racing itself that people can see and catch up on, but there really hasn't been a lot of vlogs that discuss, my opinion and my viewpoint and the way that I interact with people, and a lot of keepsake stuff. There's a lot of times where I would talk about relationships with people in high school on the vlog, and while it was personal information, there's things that I mentioned and talked about that I don't think that I remember. there's just little nuggets of information, little funny stories that had happened that I completely forgot about. And hopefully with this podcast forum that I can bring some of those stories into the podcast. Like I can get old friends of mine or, past people that I had connections with and interactions with, and we can bring them here on this podcast and we can go back in history and also, catch back up from the things that we haven't had the chance to talk about since there hasn't been the vlog format. So basically, long story short, that's the reason I'm bringing this podcast back, is just to have that connection with you guys and be able to share the personal information that, maybe people in the vlog are going to miss out on. People in the racing vlogs are going to miss out on. This is the new vlog format, and we're also going to be able to talk to people and learn things and tell stories. It's going to be fun. It's a good opportunity for me to expand on the content that you have known to come and love and enjoy on the ATA network. And maybe this will get to a certain point where this is the thing on the channel and it draws people into the other things that's going on. Obviously anything that any content creator, when they make something new, they want people to enjoy it and like it and share it and subscribe to it. So maybe if we're lucky, this becomes that thing. So hopefully you guys, have bought into this. Hopefully you understand what I'm trying to do with it. Hope I didn't ramble on too much about that. I want to real quick just discuss my plans for this year, what I want to do with racing, just so that way you guys got like a little quick preview to the season, like what I plan on doing. And maybe I'll talk about a little bit in depth of what I'm looking forward to in each distinct little bit. There's a couple main things that I'll touch on just to get the main topics in, and then we'll dive deep into it. So first off, I will be competing in the Ignite series again at the Gateway Kartplex. This will be my third year doing it. Once again, be driving the number 51 kart in the senior class, and hopefully, looking back at last year, we were third in points after drops, but with no drops, I was actually second. It was crazy because in the last race, I was going in fifth in points, and then I was able to jump from fifth to second. That's just how close the competition was behind Hunter Richardson. But Hunter Richardson, shout out to him. I don't know if he's going to listen or watch, but I'm sure there's people out there that know who I'm talking about. He just, after drops, he won every single race, I think, is what it won. It was just all wins across the board. So congratulations to him. He did the Evan Stommer thing. He just went out there and just kicked ass. That's the easiest way of saying it. He just went out there and he did what he had to do. Him and his dad are a really good pairing. His dad knows how to work on the kart. Hunter knows a lot about the kart. He can relay the information back to his dad on what needs to be adjusted for certain layouts. So they've got a really good partnership there, and it really showed this season. So congratulations to him. He was also first in the Briggs Weekly Series, so that was awesome to see that from a fellow competitor. Even though we had our run-in, and I guess I can talk about that, I was fortunate enough, and it's funny because I'm looking at, on my second monitor here, I'm looking at my desktop background, and it's me leading the field to the green flag at the Ignite Challenge race at the Gateway Kartplex, because I got the pole in qualifying against Hunter and Evan. Evan came out, Matt Chubb, Vansel, Ellsworth's, Kohlbecker was even there. So to be able to get on the pole for that race was probably, I'd say, one of the biggest highlights of the season. But unfortunately, on one of the first opening laps of the race, Hunter got in the back of Evan, and they wrecked in front of me, had nowhere to go. If you've seen the video, you know exactly what happened. I had nowhere to go, and I got stuck underneath Hunter's side pod. But I think, and me and Hunter never talked about this, but somebody told me this, and it makes a lot of sense. I think Hunter, in the moment, thought that I had dumped him, or like pushed him into the back of Evan, or Evan got loose, and I ran in the back of Hunter. So I think Hunter thought it was my fault. So we finally got untangled, and we went to almost to the back of the pack. And there's like 30, 40 drivers out here, so this is a big field. So then I'm starting to carve my way back through the field. Hunter's behind me. Evan was able to actually, I think he was able to salvage maybe a top 10 out of the deal. So I'm carving my way through the pack, and then Hunter gets back to me, and then Hunter wrecked me again. So then, because of Hunter's actions, I've been taken out twice in this race. But he got black flagged, and that whole thing worked out. So whatever, he went behind me in the final run order, whatever. So that was that situation with me and Hunter. So while me and Hunter, towards the end of the season, I didn't really like him too much. I can come through that whole story, that whole misfortune. He was misunderstood. I was kind of misunderstood, I guess, even though I saw the whole thing that happened in front of me. But I can look through that smoke, and I can see what good talent he's got as a driver and the talent that him and his dad can both bring to the table in the series. Thanks to Evan Stammer and his domination in the past couple of years, there was a new rule in the senior class where if you've won the championship, you have to take a year out, which means Hunter is now out of the picture in the senior class at the Gateway Kartplex, which means if we look, now this is just me being, speculating into the future. If you look at the point standings without drops, at the end of last year, second place was Bobby Krug. So, if we take Hunter out of the picture in those point standings, I would think the next guy in line to win a championship. I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I think a lot of people know that I'm pretty grounded when it comes to my performance out on track in the Ignite karts. Some might say I'm pretty harsh on myself, that I don't believe enough in myself. And that's something that I'm going to try doing this year, is believing more in myself, putting more belief in the kart, pushing it harder into a corner. Because I haven't broke anything. I haven't broken anything major. I haven't, broken an axle or bent a side pod up, or, I'm not going to bend a chassis. I don't think I would push that hard, but I haven't gotten to a barrier so hard or been in a big enough crash where I've had to replace parts. And some people would be like, well, you're not trying hard enough. And I can see that, and I agree with that. But then it's also, I'm good on equipment, which is another reason why I might be able to stay in the seat of a kart longer, or be able to renew this deal that I've got with Margay to be able to keep racing, is because I'm good on equipment. So that's another thing that I look at. So, looking at the point standings, I should be the next guy in line. But I can't go without denying that we're going to have some talent that moves up from the iDrive series, but I don't think, and no offense, but once you're coming from iDrive, you are so comfortable with iDrive and not working on your own kart that when you get into the Ignite program, it's just so difficult to learn all this stuff in such a short period of time that in your first season, you're not going to see a whole lot of success. So that's just something that, it's a harsh, honest opinion. We'll just see what happens, I guess. So I'm not really looking at any of the upcoming iDrive people to be that significant of competition in the senior class. There's one guy moving up that I'm looking at to be competition because he proved it at the end of last year. In the last race of the season, Trevor Eggemeyer came in to the senior class and got second. He beat me out, and Hunter won the race. It was Trevor second and me third. So, and another situation where we've got another really great driver and dad mechanic combination. So Trevor knows what's going on with the kart. I would say Hunter's probably a little bit, he's obviously more experienced, and I really don't know which mechanic between the two dads. They seem like they really work well with each other and relaying information back and forth. But there's still undoubtedly a really good driver mechanic relationship on that number 8 kart between Trevor and his dad, Brian. Granted, why Brian won the specialty award this year at the banquet. It's just, you can't deny that he's mechanic of the year. They got into KA 2-cycle racing, and his dad did a really good job prepping that kart. It won a race. I think it might have won a couple races this year. And that just goes to show just how good of a mechanic he is and how good of a driver Trevor is. So being able to come into the senior class, his first time trying out and getting second, which matches my best finish over the past 2 years. That's a great achievement, but also it's like a slap in my face of I just need to be better. I need to fill the gaps of where I'm losing speed on all these other drivers. I'm looking at Trevor being harsh competition in the senior class, and you can't not look at the points standings of just how close we were for second. Eric Lodeke actually got second after the drops. He's going to be tough competition. Dylan Ellsworth, Avery Schwalm. There's so many other drivers. Matt Chubb, Emily Ellsworth. I can't even name all of them. Those just are the ones that come to my mind that finish towards the top of the point standings. And I posted something like that on Instagram, on my Instagram stories. If you haven't followed me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram. You get a lot of good content on the stories that I've especially been posting recently. Recommend checking that out. And I mentioned that, and I had a lot of drivers, at me in the DMs and say, hey, what about me? You don't think I'm competition? Well, watch out, Krug. We're coming for you. So those are just some of the guys that I think are going to be tough competition to beat this year. And especially I think of specifically Avery Schwalm and some of the inside information. He had some issues towards the end of the season. I think his chassis cracked, and it's been an old Kart. I think he's used it for, 3 years, 4 years. I'm not an Avery Schwalm expert, and once again, we're talking about another driver that I've had history with. But he went in at the end of the season, and he got himself a new chassis, so he's going to be tough competition as well. I think he's going to be even more competitive this year than he was last year. And another tough, hard-fought competitor. The only reason that me and him had a run-in is just because how close the spec program that Margay and the Gateway Kartplex has put on at the Kartplex. And that tough competition, that close of competition, just means that me and Avery Schwalm are just that close to each other all the time during a race. I don't think there's probably only a few select races last year where me and Avery weren't on track together at the same time during a heat race. It's just that's how close competition is. And when you're with that guy, and even in 2018, we spent a lot of time together in 2018. I mean, we weren't necessarily friends. We never really talked off track. But when we're on track, it seemed like we're magnets. We're always next to each other. So when you spend that much time with a guy, and it doesn't take up until 2019, towards the end of 2019, middle of 2019 to ruffle his feathers, I mean, I'd say that's pretty good. And I'll just say now, looking into 2020, we have no beef. I mean, that's like I just explained it. We raced against each other so much, and we care, and we want to win so hard. I don't think neither one of us has won in the senior class. Same thing with Dylan Ellsworth. Dylan Ellsworth has been really close. Avery Schwalm's been really close. I've been really close. I would say that all three of us get our first win in 2020. That's my bold prediction for the Ignite Series of the Gateway Kartplex. Is all three of us are going to get our first win this season. And hopefully I can get more wins. The first time that I noted Avery Schwalm was when I almost won my first race in 2018. It was the first ever no chicane race, which that's when they removed the chicane coming out of the North Pole turns. And if you don't know the Kartplex, you don't know what I'm talking about. It's not that important of information to understand the story. But we had a situation where he was passing me on the inside, and he was technically not there. He was not close enough on my inside to where I could see that he was there. And he got pinched coming down towards the backstretch. There's a little bit of a, I don't want to call it a kink, but I guess it's a kink. It's like where it, kind of narrows off the track a little bit. So if you go for a pass on the inside coming out of turn 3 and you're side by side with somebody and they don't know you're there, the way that we run that line normally is you run up close to this curbing. Well, he wasn't going to go over that curbing, and he was side by side with me, but I didn't know he was there, so he hooked me. I guess his front bumper got inside my rear bumper, and so we go halfway down the backstretch, and he's straight, and I'm like Tokyo drifting, like the meme, the whole deja vu, and I'm doing that halfway down the backstretch, and I'm losing position. And this was right after I tried passing Gage Rucker back for the lead. It slowed us both down. It sucked. The momentum of the rest of the field just went by. Ryan Bettenhausen, another great driver I could talk about for a while, just screams by both me and Gage Rucker. And Gage Rucker, another great guy I can talk about. I can talk about all these guys because there's so much great competition in the Ignite Series. They go by, they scream by. I screwed up this pass. At this point, I'm going back because the whole momentum of the rest of the field is just coming. So Avery Schwalm tries to pass on the inside, and I don't see him, and he chops me, and I'm Tokyo drifting, and I lose so many spots. And this was the first time that I got out of the cart, and I felt so defeated. And if you go back and watch the video, I'm like on the verge of like a crying breakdown. Like, I don't know how I didn't just I should have just let all the tears flow, just for the views at least. Like, come on. But I was on the verge of crying, of just letting my eyes just pour out tears. And that was the first time that Avery Schwalm was on my radar. Then fast forward to this year, we never really had any bad situations until the backwards race, in where I was running second for the majority of the race, and then him and Eric Lodicki, after a penalty, were carving their way back through the field. And they were behind me for probably the last quarter of the race, and then they finally made their move on the last lap, as you do. It's a chess game. Keith Scharf, general manager of the Kartplex, he's very fond of that saying. It's chess game. It's all a chess game. That's exactly how he would say it. It's just a chess game. So you got to put yourself in position. You don't want to be the leader. It's like Daytona, right? You don't want to be the leader. And I hate saying that now, especially with the whole Ryan Newman situation. You don't want to be the leader of the race coming to the white flag because you know that you're not going to be leading it when you come back around. That's basically what I had going on for second. So they pretty much freight trained me. Eric Ladeke goes by and Avery Schwalm leading that on that attack. And then they do that down the backstretch. So I have turns 3, 2, and 1 going backwards. So, we still use turn 1 as turn 1. So we're going backwards, 3, 2, 1. So I've got turns 3, 2, and 1 to get back up to second place. I send it in on Eric Ladeke in turn 2. I get to the inside. That's my position because I'm getting in before he gets into the turn in. It's my corner. I think we're actually side by side before we even got into turn 2. On the backwards layout, and I think I talked to Avery about this. If not, Avery, this is my explanation. You can hear the full mental capacity of why I think you're in the wrong for this situation, which it's fine, whatever. It happened. It's done. And it made for good content. I sent it in turn 1. And in backwards, when you're going to defend turn 1 in the backwards layout, if you've got a position that you want to keep, you hug that curb. You stay in the inside line because that's the only way that someone's going to be able to pass you. No one's going to be able to get a good enough run on the outside line in turn 1 to be able to cut down and cross over and to be able to get to you at the line. So if you want to hold that position for second place, you stay low. You block the low line. But Avery Schwalm ran a qualifier lap. He was just trying to go for normal. And so he goes to the outside line. And I will admit, I was really far back. But the freaking door was wide open. Like, you go to the port, I don't know what port. Do you guys know any ports out there? You go to a port where they've got the shipping containers, and then it's like they've got the inside portion where the boats pull in, and they take the container and it goes into a building, and they've got those huge doors for like big old semi trucks to come through with these big old boxes. That's how wide the door was. That's how open this door was. It's like, if you don't try to pass me, you're an idiot. Like, that's how big the door open was. And like, I was running second this entire race. That's like, I'm not going to settle for third. So I went down. I got to the inside before the apex of the corner. I was there. So granted, I dove to the corner. I overshot the corner. I was there. And I don't even think we made contact. And we barely made contact. And I drove out the corner too. I kind of chopped him. But that's probably the least, if I would say anything dirty about that move, it was definitely the whole coming up at the end to kind of like take the outside line from him. But I haven't seen it from anybody else's point of view. So I don't know what actually happened. He did not like that. He was very upset about that. The next race we go out, and I've done all this work to the kart. The kart needed work. It was halfway through the season, so I go through. I take off the seat because the seat was kind of messed up, so I rebolt everything. I get everything cleaned up. Go through. I've done things to this kart that I've never done before. I finally got comfortable with the carburetor. I took the carburetor off, cleaned it, did all this maintenance, clutch, things that I hadn't done all year long. So I do all this stuff to the kart, and I got it going good. That next race, me and Avery, I wasn't expecting this to be a freaking Avery Schwalm storytelling episode, but this is just what it's gotten to. This is the beauty of the ATA Network podcast. We go into the next race. Me and Avery Schwalm are racing with each other. We go into the first corner. He thinks that I gave him a bad bump coming out of turn 3, so apparently I poked the bear. Going into the North Pole, he just runs right through me. He pushes me out wide. So then I'm like, all right, I know what's happening. And it's funnier too because on Instagram, he posted something along the lines of how I'm approaching the weekend, and it's a picture of Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Rusty Wallace, I think. No, it might have been that. I'm trying to think. It was Bristol. It's 2 drivers. It was a very infamous moment in NASCAR history when somebody got dumped for the win, and then he got booed out of the place. So he's pretty much saying on Instagram, like, I'm about to dump Bobby Krug. Bobby Krug is going into the wall. So he pushed me out wide, North Pole, whatever. I get back in line. I'm like, all right, I know what's going to happen. And let me go back to the Instagram post real quick. I posted on Instagram in reply to that how I'm approaching the weekend. Pretty much copy and pasted the same thing, except it's the photo of from Ricky Bobby, Talladega Nights, Ricky Bobby and Cal Naughton Jr. or whatever his name is, where they're dancing on the victory lane and they're both like dancing together. And that's how I said I'm approaching the weekend. So it was kind of like a pushback. So he pushed me out wide North Pole. I get back in line. I get back to him. And I tried doing the same thing out of the chicane of the North Pole, except he brake checks me. So then we get piled up. he does a little gesture, back looking at me. And then I'm also getting dive bombed every turn one, every North Pole situation by Austin Blair. And one of the times that Austin Blair did that, I had no solution. We're side by side going through the chicane and North Pole. I had to, like, Miami AMR style jump the curb, and I broke the seat. So after like getting like every single block, every single dirty thing that's ever happened to me on track in one race, and doing it with a broken seat halfway through, it was just not good. So we get out, and I was frustrated, and I'm like, all right, we're good. We're good. I was like, I went to Avery. I'm like, I see what you've done. I know what you've done. We're good. I did the thing. You've got your revenge. Well, we're even now, right? And he was trying to make it into a thing, whatever. And so, and we calmed down, we cooled down. He comes over and talks to me in the pit area. And quite frankly, I straight up told him, I'm like, dude, what just happened out there? While it was stupid, I mean, it's probably a drop in the final points. I've got a good video. I've got good content out of this. So while I'm frustrated, I kind of realize that's what racing's, and I heard stuff on the internet. I got comments saying, and even from important people in my life saying that this video does not promote the Ignite program appropriately. You're showing seniors being aggressive, nasty style racing. Yes, but that's racing. Like, you're building us a safe kart that we're able to do this kind of racing. So that's gonna happen. It's not like we're wrecking each other. It's just aggressive racing. We're fighting for every position on track, and that happens. And when we've shaken hands, we're gonna go into 2020, and we're gonna race just as aggressively as we did before. Like this never even happened. It's just been a fun aspect of racing. I mean, you go back and you watch NASCAR, and who's one of the more polarizing figures, one of the more entertaining figures that people would tune into NASCAR to see what's he going to complain about in his interview, who's he going to have contact with this week. You think of like Kyle Busch now in the modern era, you think of Tony Stewart, Dale Sr. They made NASCAR and the racing interesting. They made it fun to watch. It almost added a storyline to the program, that there was no writers behind the scenes like WWE or your daily drama show, that they weren't writing the story. This is just happening naturally, and you would tune in to watch that. And as a content creator, I saw the value in the relationship that me and Avery Schwalm or me and Hunter Richardson had at the end of the year. Like, people knew what happened. I was transparent about it. I'm going to share my good days. I'm going to share my bad days. Whether I don't see it as bad promotion. I think it just shows the community that we've got built up. I mean, like I said, me and everybody in the Ignite program, everyone up and down the spectrum, all the people towards the back of the pack that are still trying to learn the program and they're just out there for fun, all the people at the top half of the field that are working closely with their dad or their mechanic or whoever they've got working on their kart. I mean, obviously all the top people have that kind of help, that kind of support, or they're working on their stuff and they know their stuff really well. Like I said, Ryan Bettenhausen, he's a good example of that. He knows his stuff. So, no matter where you're at, you're having fun. And I think the product that I'm showing on my channel sells itself. I'm having fun. I wouldn't be doing this over this long period of time if I wasn't enjoying the racing. If I wasn't enjoying it, I would just go off and go back to iDrive and do rental kart racing, or I would get out of racing altogether. But I don't see a situation coming up where there's something in the product that makes me say, nah, I don't want to go out there. That's me talking about why I love racing, the relationships that I have with racing, and the Ignite series in which I will be competing again this year. And to not ramble on, I know I rambled on because there was a lot to talk about in the Ignite series at the Gateway Carplex, because I've done that. I've had experience in that. One thing that I'll be doing this year in addition to the Ignite series is the Ignite Challenge. As I briefly mentioned, it travels across the Midwest to a bunch of different tracks on the circuit. We'll be going to, just to name a couple of the locations, Gateway Carplex is on the list, which is also in part with the Ignite series, so it's the same race. So you get Ignite challenge points for the Ignite series race. It's the same thing. We'll be going to places like the Mid-State Kart Club in Springfield, Illinois. It's actually Dawson, Illinois, but Springfield is the bigger city there, so it's, as everyone knows, Springfield. You're going up to Springfield to race. Autobahn Country Club in Joliet, Illinois, and then another track that I'll highlight. They've just added for this season. It's the first time they'll be going there for the Ignite karts. Just became a new authorized dealer of the Margay Ignite Whiteland Country Club or Whiteland track in Whiteland, Indiana. So bunch of great tracks in the challenge program. So if you are a kart racer that you are dedicated to your club program in the Midwest, whether that be Kartplex or you're in the Autobahn or you're at Midstate, come out and do some of these challenge races. Come out and meet other club members and build your connection list. I mean, we're all out here because we love racing. We love the product that Margay has put together in this 206 Briggs 206 series. So come out there, meet new people, try out new tracks, and they'll save this for another episode. And then you've seen this, and I've talked about it in the most recent video on the channel where I went to Miami and I talked about it on the onboard video. Miami was a new experience, and I learned a lot about the kart going to different tracks. So I would recommend trying out one of the, a track that you're not accustomed to that's on the challenge list. So I'll be competing in the challenge series. And then I've also got planned out where I won another Skip Arbor one-day racing school, thanks to their partnership with the Gateway Kartplex, the top 3 in 3 of the different programs. I think it's Ignite Senior, Ignite Masters, and then Super Comp Senior. All 3 of those classes, if you finish in the top 3, you get awarded Skip Arbor credit. First place gets a 3-day racing school, and the second and third place get a 1-day racing school. So huge shout out to Gateway Kartplex, Worldwide Technology Raceway, and Skip Arbor Racing School for putting that together. And as you guys know, last year I was able to do the Indianapolis experience in the Formula 4 car, and that would not have been possible without Worldwide Technology Raceway and the Gateway Kartplex for obviously getting me in that situation to be at the auto show and be able to contend. And then Skip Arbor Racing School for making that whole deal work out. I was able to make video content with them and really establish an awesome partnership that will continue into 2020. So I'm not sure exactly where and what I'm going to do for that, but stay tuned because I will be doing another Skip Arbor Racing School. And as soon as I figure out what I will do, it'll be announced on my platforms, which I will talk about at the very end of this, so that way you can make sure if you aren't connected with me in all the ways that you can be connected, that you are connected with me. If you've lasted this long, you obviously have an interest. So I will get you connected with all the things that I have out there on the interwebs. So yeah, Ignite Series, Ignite Challenge, Skip Arbor Racing School. And there's other little things that I want to do. I want to try different racing. Like I will have an opportunity this year to drive a dirt car, a vehicle. So that's, it's not like a dirt midget. I'm not saying like I'm going to go out in a modified and start ripping laps. It's a dirt street stock kind of thing. So, I mean, it's not big, but it'll make for good content on the channel. I think it's going to be a pretty cool experience. I also want to try a 2-cycle. I was able to test out a couple 2-cycle karts. I was able to try out a 125cc. I think it was a IAME 125. I was able to do a KA 100. I would like to try to test again and potentially race. I mean, the Super Comp series of the Gateway Kartplex is a great opportunity for people that are not. And another thing with this podcast, while I am a Margay factory driver, I do have a contract obligation with Margay. I don't want to make this just a Margay podcast. Like, I don't want to just like Margay this, Margay that, Margay. I want other people of different karting platforms and just racing in general to feel welcome. So that's another thing that Kartplex does is Super Comp. It's an open 206, open chassis. You can bring your whatever kart that's not a Margay. You can bring a Margay kart and compete in that series. But it's open chassis, 206, soft tire compound on the Hoosier R60B compound. And you can come out on that. And then that's also when they give the 2-cycle karters an opportunity to come out and race at the Kartplex, is on the Super Comp days. So I would like to be able to run Super Comp, but not 206. I want to be able to get 2-cycle experience. I think that'd be awesome. And granted, I don't think that there's a lot of senior class opportunities. I would have to really do like a 125 kart. So I don't really want to do that. But my main concern first for sponsorship, donation, all that stuff, which I'll talk about real quick as we're going to conclude this podcast, is securing the Ignite series of the Gateway Kartplex, and then securing the Ignite Challenge series. Those are the two things that are most focused on. The rest of the money after that would then go to Skip Barber. You do have to pay for your own insurance, even if you've got this certificate to be able to go out and do a racing school. So that's where that money would go to. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to, along with launching this new podcast, this ATA Network podcast. So once again, like I mentioned, all those links that I had mentioned previously, you can find that in the link dump down below. If you're not already following the ATA Network, or if you're not already following me, there's a couple different platforms you can do that on. Facebook, you can go to facebook.com/ATA Network. That is the Facebook page for this YouTube channel, for this production aspect of what I'm doing. You can go to facebook.com/BobbyKrug51. That's Bobby Krug, Krug 51, the numbers. And that is the page for the racing related stuff. So all things racing for me that I've got going on, whether it's karting or Skip Barber, or if I get another opportunity to do something big, that's where you can go to listen to that or get that kind of information. Twitter is ATA Network, and that's the only thing that I've got on there. Same thing with Instagram. Instagram, ATA Network. Follow for the posts on Instagram and the stories that I will post on there as well. And like I've also mentioned, I will remind you that if you are interested in being a guest on this ATA Network podcast, you can go to the Google form link down below, submit a quick form just asking, what's your name and what do you want to talk about? What can you bring to the table? And then if you are one of those special individuals that think that you've got what it takes to be a co-host on this podcast, fill out that portion as well, send it over. I'm not sure what the scheduling will be, but I can guarantee you this, that once we get this podcast rolling with episode 2, there will be a dedicated schedule that will be mapped out. We will not necessarily backlog a lot of episodes, but we will have a dedicated schedule so you know when you can get access, when you will be getting that latest episode of the ATA Network podcast. And finally, the last plug for this is checking out bobbykrug.com/racing. At bobbykrug.com/racing is where you can find the link to the video that I was talking about, where it gives you all the information about the history about my racing and then how to help me get through this season of racing and all the funding opportunities that we've got. And then it's also got information on my merchandise store at shop.spreadshirt.com/ATA Network, but that link is found on that bobbykrug.com website. So check all those links out if you haven't already. And this is where I will conclude it. I'm done with this episode. Thanks for listening. I've been Bobby Krug, and I will catch you guys on the next episode of the ATA Network podcast.